The following video will be long, incoherent, and angry. Now, I don't like complaining. I probably complain too much. I don't like it. And if I'm aware of it, I'm gonna try to curb it. But this will be the exception. Hopefully just to get it all out of my system, move on, and at least attempt to be more positive and just work on getting better instead of blaming others. All that said, however, I want to go on a little rant, let it out to the void of the internet. So I've been released, given I think 5 weeks notice, but just to disrespect. Now, if you've been an intern, a substitute teacher, a tour guide, you know a thing or two about disrespect. Like, I don't care. I don't think I should be a respected person. But my experience at this company, really just by this one person or two, just goes above and beyond. And I'm known for tolerance for putting up with stuff. And if you just look at it from the outside in, I don't want to complain. My grandparents, bless them, they work 80-hour weeks. My father, he works 70 hours. So like 60 hours, 70 hours, like the hours themselves are not the issue. It's a cozy job. It's pretty much a white-collar job. You're indoors. It's air-conditioned. It's not that bad. And the job is tough. I'm not good at it. But I worked hard. I really did. I worked hard. And I cared for the customers. And I believe I took all the steps I could to compensate for the lack of technical ability. I look back at my time logs, which you have to record in increments of 15 minutes. No one enforces it, really, but my boss does. No problem there. Except for I don't have a great memory. And emails don't count as loggable time. Of course, it's all depending on your boss or manager's policies. We're getting hundreds of emails. Generally takes me an hour to get through. That's not loggable. I get a new issue, I'm just reading into it without doing anything, just trying to understand what's going on. That doesn't count. So we're looking at 14-hour days where I'm logging 10 or 11 because I just don't want to argue or fight. So just putting the safe, justifiable minutes. So we're looking at 14 actual hours, no lunch, no social breaks, 14 actual hours translating to 10, 11, maybe 12 hours. And with those reduced, quote-unquote, logged hours, we're looking at 60 hours since April, which is when I started. There have been weeks where I legitimately spent more time at work than outside in a week. 168 hours in a week. We're looking at 85 plus. Stayed overnight. Typical week was 8 to 8 weekdays, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. weekdays, and 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. weekends. I tried. Sometimes getting to work at 3, 5. And even when I hope we'll be checking emails, we'll be responding to things, or this is dumb, but just thinking about what's at work. Of course, the company doesn't care. It's about what you put in or what they get out of you, which is fair. But the reason I bring up what I sacrifice, I genuinely sacrifice health and happiness to try to do well in this job, to push through, to make it. But all in the reviews, their verbiage, the words they choose to say, it is the most demotivating or aggravating things you can tell someone who's really trying to make it work. They say you choose not to get this done. You decide that this is not important. I'm working. I'm trying. Like, how do you look at my hours and think I'm not trying? Who is doing this? Like, it's cliche, but I've literally been the first in, last out person at my workplace. On days where I come in at 6 a.m. before the doors even unlock, and you need to key in, and then staying after everyone's gone, except for the custodians who come for a night shift. Like, I actually know some of their names just because I stayed that late, and even then I had to cut that out to just focus, just pure focus, only work. I wasn't screwing around on my phone. I wasn't chatting up with some of my coworkers. I wasn't going on different sites. I was just working. And they just say, you decide not to get things done. You choose not to do this. You don't listen. You say the right things down, but you don't actually put them in action. You're not putting pen to paper. How tone deaf do you have to be? Like, and then as for the lack of technical expertise, yeah, I'll fully admit that's mostly my fault. But that's the thing. When I first interviewed, when I first got the job, it was with the agreement that training would be a 6-month period. And in the middle of training, so around the 3-month mark, I may start getting customer work and then ramp up and then switch to balances. You know what happened? I got staffed 5 weeks in. 5 weeks in. In my hiring class, I was the first to get staffed. And by all metrics, there's internal metrics in just terms of number of issues, volume, complexity, and all that. I got the most difficult customer. I got the most difficult customer in my hiring class, the earliest on, and that just led to a vicious cycle. I didn't get the training done because I was working on customer work, and then because I was working on customer work, or because I didn't get the training done, my customer work was slower. And in hindsight, I should have tried to focus on my training and push back. But at the time, for me, it just felt like training was this arbitrary requirement. Didn't seem that helpful. Didn't seem that urgent. Like, if I don't do training, it's only gonna harm me. But if I don't do customer work, because I work for healthcare, that actual hospitals, actual patients are, suffering. And it was very early on, didn't know a lot, had to look up a lot of things in our internal database, had to get help in internal meetings or office hours, which people were kind enough to help at times. But it just took me a very long time to ramp up because I just started so early, and they genuinely just had an incredible volume of issues, which is lower now. But I didn't lie on the interview. I didn't lie on my resume. I just kept things straight, didn't sell myself. Was fully aware, concerned, and communicative of my lack of technical expertise. I've never been good at the technical side in coding or whatever. My brain just didn't work that way. Went through 2 weeks of training during the 2-week camp, and I was already doing 8 to 8s. Most people were doing 8 to 4, 8 to 5 during camp, but 8 to 5. And then 3 extra hours on my own. And that's began a 6-hour week. Didn't work weekends at the time. But after completion of the said 2-week camp, which is where you learn the bulk of your coding or technical expertise, I knew I didn't learn everything I need to know. I was still very much concerned if I had enough proficiency. And I talked to trainers who expressed those concerns, and they said, it's not the most common, but for the people who struggle more or take a little longer to learn, there's an option to take the camp again. That 2-week course training. thought that was a good idea in the grand scheme of things, because you're looking at 6-month training deadlines and presumably a multi-year career at the company. Asked my boss, nope, that should have been sufficient. You should not need any more training. Okay. And there's a coding project that we have to get through, and the only person that can help you is your boss or manager. Internal structure is a little different, so I'm just translating into I guess understandable diction outside of the company, but I don't know, boss probably more like a manager, I guess. But nope, about 60% received significant help. Mine would not. They said it's a trainer's job. They really didn't want to lift the finger. They didn't want to help, which is fine. They do have jurisdiction or authority to make that call. But from my perspective, I did what I could. I recognized I needed more help. Asked for help. Did not get it. Asked for more time. Did not get it. And then so the work began. And then for a couple months, they didn't tell me anything. I was just working on customer work 8 to 5, and then training 5 to 8, and weekends would be training as well. Because 8 to 5 were 80% of people, the time 80% of people were working, and if a customer issue came up that I needed help with urgently, or just due to the complexity, that's why I'm stuck to the 8 to 5 bounds. And the training just was the second priority. The customer work came first, and it really just made sense at the time. When I was doing training, not at the rate I needed to, and looking back, I don't think I factored in the fatigue. I didn't recognize that if you're more tired, you're gonna be slower at the work you get done. And that's interesting. So what I'm saying is 3 hours spent in the evening for training probably wasn't equivalent to 3 hours of training normally spent during working hours. Anyways, got staffed. Working with customers, that was a priority. Training was a second priority, still a high priority over health or social life or anything else. I was working. We were hitting 60, 70, 80. And there was a point where I realized that if you work too hard, it can be counterproductive, and you'll end up doing less work than you would working less, which should be easy to understand, but took me a while to learn the hard way. But then I just well, it was a rant though, right? Lost my train of thought. Gonna make a pit stop to pick up something. But all that, it wasn't like I wasn't getting customer work. I was very aware of my shortcomings. I really worked hard to make up for it, to schedule help for issues. But we had the weekly reviews. Nothing helpful, nothing doing. It just, you're not getting enough work done. Okay. I'm going to try to get more work done, and that's what it just came down to for months. And then about a month or two ago, I'm not good at tracking time, honestly. Don't know how long, but more recently, more than halfway through training, the training period, started getting serious feedback about my future here. That I wasn't doing well, I wasn't meeting standards. Literally straight up asked me, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Why are you still here? It's obvious you're not going to succeed. Are you happy here? No, of course I'm not happy. Of course I'm unhappy. But I wasn't angry at anyone else. I wasn't happy with my boss, but at that point it was just still 100% my fault because I just couldn't get things done and other people managed. But that's the thing. Got staff 5 weeks in instead of 3 months in. Completed 9% of my training before I got staffed to a customer that had 18, 25 hours of meetings alone, and then all the issue solving. But they were just saying, you only got 2 customers. You shouldn't have that much work. How on earth is it taking 40 hours? Or just questioning my decisions. Why would you ever think what you did was okay? How does that make sense to you? Just very hurtful. Minor mistakes were harped on, and 2 of the 3 strikes I had were issues that I recognized were complex and had important consequences, which I consulted people for, more experienced people to advise and help me understand, and once I understand, to explain them back to the customer, because I wasn't sure and I wanted to be 100% sure. And I don't really fault them for it, but turns out they were wrong. I don't know what I could have done at that point. I just trusted them. I didn't doubt them at all. They were more tenured. They were willing to help me. Of course, I listened to them, and well, it turns out they're wrong. Like that, we're not 100%. They're probably 98, 99%. Got unlucky, and they helped me several times, countless times elsewhere with the accuracy. But yeah, that was what was harped on for, not harped on, that was what was brought up repeatedly for bringing up my performance. Just those 2 mistakes out of 3. The third one was my fault. I don't remember what it was. But the third one, I don't remember disputing internally. And the way feedback is done, it's not anonymous. You either have to give feedback to your boss directly or your boss's boss. And my boss's boss, I hadn't met until 3 months in, and at that point, my boss's boss had the opinion that I was a poor worker and combative because I disagreed on just workflow or structure a couple times. And at that point, you're in a hole. If you try to dispute or push back on that characterization, you only look like you're proving them right. So they're saying untruthful things, hurtful things. I just agreed. Just had to step it up. That I know I'm struggling. I know I'm not meeting expectations. But I'm working to make that happen. And I do see myself succeeding in the long term, which they took little stock in. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know. But went through sadness, went through anger, denial, all that jazz. And hopefully this will help me get acceptance, but I'm just upset. There's people who care less than me about their customers, about their work. There's people who respond slower than me, people with less workload than me. They're okay. I don't want them to get fired, but I'm just saying you're really singling me out for having the worst performance. Am I really the worst performer? I'm flexible. I'm checking things. Oh, the minor thing they called me out was I was working on my training and had my computer off at I think 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Got a message from my boss, not urgent by the way. Didn't respond, and I looked offline at 4:30. So that was it. Like, you're not active, you're not ready during core hours. Working weekends, nights. Just focus. Go to the bathroom like once. For less than 6 minutes. That's it. We don't do coffee. We don't do no breaks. Just work. Kind of just trying to will your way through. And I was learning. Picking up patterns, leading calls, helping other people with their issues, explaining what I understood, getting back to them with troubleshooting and all that. And it wasn't like I was being lazy or not trying, which is a criticism too. It's the most insane criticism. They kind of walked through the time I spent, and we came to logging where I spent 2 hours of my week planning, and they singled that out. They said, you're not doing anything. You're spending these 2 hours, you're spending hours that you could have been doing work, just planning, just looking at stuff, not doing anything. And they pointed that out as the reason I couldn't do work. If I'm working 68 hours in a week and I spend 2 hours for planning, that additional 2 hours is not causing everything. That's not the reason I'm struggling. Because if everyone else is working 50 hours, those 16 additional hours are still 16 additional hours. Those 2 hours of planning don't take away from anything. That's additional time. I understand the criticism is 40 or 45 hour weeks. That's set, and then I'm using limited time. But that planning is additional time I do to help me just organize and stay on top of things, because I don't have the best memory. Stuff like that. And I guess it shows I don't have the best memory if I'm forgetting stuff. But yeah, I needed help or ask. Wouldn't ask my boss. She didn't respond in days, or a responder was like, you should already notice. Just never a quick answer, or you should ask this person. Because it's just technical stuff, so different people or experts in different specialties. Really hard to understand without being part of it. It's just incredible the level of specialization that you get in this company. So what else? I was responding to stuff. There's months I struggled where I lost track of things, had to be reminded by some people, which is perfectly valid criticism, but just zero empathy or understanding. Like, they just were absolutely convinced I wasn't slow, but simply defiant. Like, they're giving me perfect strategies. If I just follow them, everything will be fine. I wouldn't have to work long hours. I'll be getting everything done if I just follow those strategies. And I tried them too. I tried them too. They just slowed me down, or busy work or whatever, or wasn't part of just how I worked. I did. Like, I gave up a long time ago trying to dispute or argue against things. It's like, you just can't win. So every inane ask, all the busy work they asked me to do, I did. Extra work, I did. I didn't say no. I just put my head down and try to work. Did what I had to do. Did what they asked me to do. I don't know. I just worked that I could will my way through. Sometimes you're at the top, sometimes you're at the bottom, sometimes you follow, sometimes you lead, sometimes you're the best, sometimes you're the worst. I thought if I'm bottom 10% in technical expertise slash efficiency, if I'm top 1% in terms of hours, in terms of work, in terms of effort, it's going to make up for it. And I was slowly improving on the technical sides. Was picking up some tools, some skills under my belt. And I honestly thought I could make it. I'll just kind of reach competence a little slower than other people. And not to shift the blame too much, but that early assignment to customer work over training really hurt in terms of development. I think I was in for a bad time, regardless of which boss or manager I had. I was definitely going to have to work 60 plus hours for the first 6 months. But I think I would have made it. I really would. I really think so. I don't think that's copium or denial. Maybe it is, but it wasn't impossible. I wasn't getting stonewalled. And then, there's multiple smaller incidents. Another incident was they didn't want to help me or do anything. Just when I asked for 15 minutes at a time or 5 minutes to go over certain issues, but just sudden impromptu shadowing. They wanted to shadow me work for 30 minutes. Sure, why not? But that's the thing. I was working on... So it was, I think, 4:30 or end of day, end of regular work day. And this is when I start wrapping up, start organizing to check for last minute things I need to do or just tackle the easier stuff as I transition and then go into training. But they wanted me to work on a harder issue to see how I, quote unquote, handle challenges. So I picked so I could have solved easier issues, no worries, or plan or organize stuff, but they wanted to see a hard issue being tackled in accident. So sure, I picked something that came in at 2 p.m. That wasn't urgent. It was just hard. Because the urgent issues, even if they were hard, or they were taken care of or had like some progress. I don't know how to explain this, but anyway, struggled for 25 minutes to just understand what's going on, to pull up resources, documentation, set up next steps. But for those issues, I would often just, after spending 30 minutes to 2 hours, later learn that 2 hours is too long. If someone more experienced, more tenured, more familiar with the issue can help you get 5 minutes, help you accomplish more than you would in an hour. I think that's a good trade-off. That's what you do. For this one, that was certainly the case. But I just kind of waffled. I just never seen something like it before. When I pulled in documentation, it wasn't really a one-to-one match. And I know it now, but for 25 minutes, I just struggled. And after that, I thought, okay, that's not a good look, but this is what you wanted. I mean, I didn't say that. That's what I thought. But here's what happened. Not a 5-minute review, not 10 minutes to actually solve it when they could. For 53 minutes, I remember, for 53 minutes, they just berated me saying how I got nothing done, and this is exactly what you do all week. How do you know me? I didn't plan to work on this. I could have been so much more productive in 30 minutes if I wasn't looking at that problem, which I just couldn't do. Didn't get. There was a training task which was relevant and something else, but I just wasn't equipped to handle that. And this is where you can pull and help, point in the right direction, and then you'll be in a better place instead of just searching the vast database for something that will help you, something that's relevant. But no, for 53 minutes, I remember, because I worked 4:30 to 5, started around 4:35, because I was for 5 minutes, I was doing something else. they wanted her problem, so I did for 25 minutes. Couldn't get it done. And in this field, being stuck for 30 minutes isn't the end all be all. It's not the worst situation. It happens for issues you haven't seen before sometimes. But for 53 minutes, from 5 p.m. to 5:53 p.m. I don't know why she didn't go home or had better things to do. Normally she goes home at 5, but I was just berated. I don't remember how. I don't remember the details, but it was just amazing. For 53 minutes, I was just criticized. Not constructive criticism, not technical explanations, just criticism of how bad I was. And I remember being amazed at how you can do that for 53 minutes. I mean, I ran my mouth for 30 minutes saying nothing, but maybe something along those lines. But for 53 minutes, I was criticized. And that's 53 minutes you're taking away from me solving things I can actually solve. Doing things I can actually do. In addition to the 25 minutes I spent at that in the issue in the first place. Things like that. I didn't write things down. I'm not petty. I don't keep receipts, but just things like that are just always going on. And there was another one where it's like an hour and a half for something similar. I was working, got interrupted, and they weren't helping me do the work or teaching me anything. They were just honking at me. Yeah. I remember. I think the third day I was given useful information about experts or who to contact or what to do. And after that, every other meeting I got nothing positive to take away. Just dreaded seeing her. Not because of criticism, although that's annoying, just because it's slowing down my work. I'm not eating lunch. I'm not taking breaks. I just want to get work done. I know I need to get work done. I know it's going to take me longer. So that's what I tried. So every week, just hours taken away from me like that. Just during key hours too, because these are during core hours where I'll be meeting customers or could be getting help from coworkers. Yeah, just not set up for success. Felt like I didn't understand how a single person could make you so miserable without them living with you. That I get, but I genuinely didn't understand people hating their bosses until now. And for honestly, I didn't even hate. I just hated seeing them, but I didn't wish ill or anything. But looking back at just the feedback she put out and how they pushed me out, I think I have some justified reasons to be upset. Like the way this company is set up, they're the most important person for your success, but in theory, they can also be the most helpful person. I just felt like they're the most detrimental person. And some criticism. The untrue criticism. That I didn't care, that I didn't try, that I wasn't doing things. That's what takes me off. You can call me dumb, I don't mind. You can call me inefficient, that's perfectly true. But I cared. I actually cared. I cared. If you didn't care, you wouldn't work nights. You wouldn't stay up nights. You wouldn't spend more time in the office than outside. You wouldn't be working weekends. You wouldn't be sacrificing everything just to do that. And then, and after we had the quote-unquote heart-to-heart about why are you still here. Just financial reasons, because I had to support my family. And she used that to hold out against me and just dangle the threat of fines. Because if you're terminated and quote unquote, I think you have poor conduct or something like that. I can't remember actually. But there's a particular term where you have to pay $10,000 if you qualify as, I can't remember, misconduct, bad conduct, poor conduct, something like that. But that's the thing. It's not defined. It's arbitrarily defined. It literally says in the corporate, I don't know, book, laws, whatever, that the company defines exactly what it means. So anytime I was tasked extra work or given whatever, I mean, I would do it anyway, but they just straight up use that as leverage. They knew I was in a tough spot financially and implied that if I kept messing up, quote unquote, it would happen. That could happen. That's how you keep someone under your thumb, I guess. But just not a good look, not a good impression. And it just sucks because I like the architecture of the buildings here. I liked most or the majority of my coworkers, which is incredible. I like my customers. Everything except for the long hours, which I think would have been over as I picked up more efficiency. And even if not, this is okay. But just that one factor. That was it. I didn't have any issues with coworkers, office mates, hobmates, whatever. I had issues with customers. Didn't really mind the long hours, although it was tough. Hoped that it would get better and then we could stabilize to 60 hours or so. I had plans. I had dreams. I wanted to improve down the stretch and help newer folks, which I was starting to do, but also just kind of share my growth and just show that you can overcome, that you can have a really rough start and still work out fine. And I was trending up, I would say, but nope. So you had a 3 on the grading metrics. Just bad across the board. They didn't see that I would ever succeed. They gave me pretty poor characterization. But yeah, I can't remember. Maybe that's a good thing, but there were other incidents, other talks. What just annoyed me the most, what hit me the most was you're not choosing to get the work done. You're not listening. You're not doing what she tells you to do. When I was doing it, even if it hurt me. I was doing what was told. And spending much time as I could. Eyes hurting, wrists hurting, back hurting, just kept working because we had to work. Didn't do any social stuff. Didn't get to know my coworkers very well, which I think would have been nice. Really, I was just all in. Wasn't even looking at other jobs. Wasn't keeping up with old friends. Wasn't trying to make new friends. It was just work. And if they told me that's not enough, that's okay, but they just said it. That I'm choosing not to get this done. I'm making decisions. It's my fault, not the lack of ability or lack of support. That is just on me. That I could succeed if I wanted to, but I'm not. That's just disrespectful. And honestly, given that structure, it's a shame. But yeah, time to accept it and move on.